Converting vault to bearing buddy and bearing buddy to vault. Can it be done? Let's take a look and find out. Well, the temperature's up, water temperature's rising, so that means one thing, you're headed out to the lake, and we're starting to see a lot of boat trailer breakdowns. All of those stem mostly from lubrication issues. It's usually lack of maintenance or improper maintenance. But a question that we get asked all the time, I actually had this question this week, is can I convert my vault system to a bearing buddy, or can I convert my bearing buddy over to a vault system? So that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to show the differences of those components, what can be done and what cannot be done, so that you don't have a catastrophic failure and that you can just enjoy your time at the lake and no breakdowns in between. When it comes to the main differences between vault and bearing buddy or just a standard marine grease is the lubrication. If you're not running a vault, you're going to be using, or you should be using, some form of marine grease. If you're using the vault system, you're going to be using a hybrid grease. And what that is, it's kind of in a solid state now. Once it warms up or heats up, it turns into more of an oil. And then once it cools down, it turns back into a grease. Both of these are designed to keep positive pressure inside the hub, so when you do back down the boat ramp and you hit that cool or cold water, it doesn't force water into the hub assembly. That positive pressure keeps all the nasty out, keeps your grease in good shape. I will tell you, both of these systems work just fine if properly maintained. So usually if somebody approaches me and says, hey, can I convert my vault to marine grease, or can I convert my marine grease utilizing like a bearing buddy setup to vault, I usually ask the question, well, maybe or maybe not, but what is the purpose of that? Usually the feedback I get, people want to get away from the vault due to cost. The parts are a little more expensive. Sometimes they're harder to find. I will say here lately, they've been a little easier to find, but that's usually the feedback I get. Now your situation may be different. Both of these have been around for a long time, and there's other options out there other than bearing buddy. They're bearing buddy style. I prefer to use bearing buddy if I can, just because they are tried and true and they've been around for a long time. So understand why you're wanting to convert, because it may or may not be possible. So that's what we're going to try to answer today. I'm going to go ahead and tell you one of these you cannot convert from one to the other. I'm going to show you that here shortly. We had a customer do that. He actually made some miles on that, but he had catastrophic failure and had to end up replacing the axle, have the axle ordered for him right now. So I don't want you to make the same mistake. We want you to leave here today with the knowledge of how to do this if you decide to convert one way or the other. But again, before you think about converting, if you maintain both of these with the proper equipment, with the proper materials and the proper procedures, both of these will work and serve you fine. It's when we don't maintain them or get out of their parameters and when we start having issues. So grease is the main difference. The cap is the other difference. If I can get the bearing buddy bra off of it, if you'll notice, that has a grease zert in it. This is bearing buddy and this is the vault. It does not have a grease zert in it. This is a fully sealed system. So when this is put together correctly, once it heats up, once your grease starts turning to oil, it will push that cap out. That is the indicator you look for. There are parameters on the stick out on this to know that it is have been assembled correctly and it is in good working condition. Once it cools off, the cap will go back down because the pressure inside the cap is changing. On the bearing buddy, sometimes you will see some grease coming out of the front. That is perfectly normal. Don't freak out. The place on both of these setups you don't want to see anything coming out is on the rear seal. So on the back side, you may see a tiny bit of grease. That's acceptable, but if you have grease or the hybrid oil pouring out of it or it's slung everywhere, that seal has been compromised. You have something going on and it's going to need a tear down. One of the disadvantages that I hear a lot of customers that don't like on the vault, this is a one-time use. So if you pull this cap off, you're supposed to discard the cap and replace it with a new cap. And if you buy a service kit, it's going to come for one axle. It is going to come with a tube of hybrid grease. It is going to come with a couple of caps, O-rings for the hub, seals, and the install tool. This is a pretty fancy install tool. It's actually a plumbing part, but it works great. Cap fits in there, helps you drive it on securely. Another difference between these two is the seals. And when we tear down this vault here in a minute, we're really going to talk about that, because this is where a lot of the mistake is made, whether you're just actually servicing these units or if you're trying to do conversions. So we're going to talk about what the differences are in those once we tear it down and why they fail. So first thing we're going to do is remove the cap. And again, these are supposed to be replaced, so getting it off there, you use your own judgment on that. I'm just using a mallet, just kind of walk it off. And it will be tight. And if you're on a sawhorse like me, it's gonna be a little harder. So we got the cap removed. I've had this off before for demonstration purposes. You would have a cotter key that goes in the nut retainer. So you remove the cotter key, remove the nut retainer, get your favorite crescent wrench, channel locks, socket, whatever you got, take the nut off. I'm just kidding, it's not really that tight. Finger tight usually takes it off. I usually use channel locks. If you have the vault system that we're working on, be sure to keep up with the nut, inspect it to make sure it's in good shape. These are a little hard to find. A lot of times just your regular parts store is not gonna have that available. So we have our washer, outer bearing. Like I said, it does look like a grease. It's maybe a little thinner than normal marine grease, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna go take this, we're gonna wash it up. I'm going to show you why we're washing it, what to look for to see if we can do a conversion. We're going to wash these parts up because we do need to identify what we have and the condition of what we have. So if you don't have a fancy parts washer, it's no problem. We'll leave a video link in the description that shows you some other options when it comes to washing. So we'll put this on about 10 minutes or so, go grab a corn dog, and we'll be back. Now that we have our vault hub torn down, we have all of our internals. You need to check your bearings out while you're in there. These all look great because they're brand new and they have no miles on them. We have a retainer. If it's in good shape, you can reuse it instead of replacing it. One thing I didn't cover, before you take the original seal out, get you a pair of calipers. You can get these inexpensive. If I can find a link, I'll leave a link to these, whether that's digital or a dial. Measure the ID of this seal in here. And then you're also going to need to measure the spindle as well. That way you can find a seal. Now let's talk about some of the reasons why you can't convert or interchange these. So we're first going to talk about if I had a standard grease setup like we have here. So this is just a run-of-the-mill standard grease, standard spindle, no grease zert in there. Why I can't convert this over to vault. Well, one of the first reasons that would keep you doing it is because the end of the spindle is not drilled. We'll see if we can slide the camera over here. I'm gonna reach across. So you see there is no grease zert, but there is a drilled and tapped hole for a grease zert in there. And what that is used for, once you have pre-packed your bearings with hybrid grease, you've installed your seal, you reassemble the hub on the vault spindle, you have to insert a grease zert. You have to fill the cavity with hybrid grease to vault spec. Then you fill the cap to a certain level. Then once you install that cap, that's what creates the right amount of grease for when you do build heat. It builds the correct pressure in order to build between, I think it's 3 and 6 PSI to keep the water out when you back in the water. If you have a bearing buddy set up or standard grease, there is no hole drilled in here. Now, I have had the question asked, well, I have an easy lube. So there is a hole drilled in there in my easy lube. So I can just take that out and I can do it. As far as the grease zert goes, yes. Here is the other main issue. It is seal and wear sleeve setups. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to find a setup for vault that will match a standard spindle or something that's been running some other type of marine grease to fit over that will keep the hybrid grease from leaking. So you can't just slap, even though it might look the same, you need to know the ID of this to check it out. If you can find one, more power to you. But again, I do not recommend converting any type of standard grease to a vault hybrid grease system. 10 out of 10 times where I've seen it does not work. It will work for a short time and then it will begin to leak. You will have loss of pressure, and what happens when that hybrid grease cools down, there is no pressure in there and the grease will not get back in the bearings. It will cause improper lubrication, it will cause water infiltration into the hub and will cause catastrophic loss, which at that point you are going to convert to a new axle. So don't do it. There's a lot of reasons why, but that is the main reason, is the grease zert in the front not being able to properly fill to the hybrid grease vault setup, and the sealing and the wear sleeve setup. Now, speaking of wear sleeves, no matter which of these systems you use, if you do have a wear sleeve, it's got to be in good condition. These are stainless steel. You need to check it out. If it's worn, you need to take this off and replace it with a new one. Some of these will run an O-ring, like you can see here on the vault. It runs an O-ring underneath. Some of them take specific sealants and or Loctite to go underneath that. You would need to check the manufacturer spec for whatever bearing hub setup that you're running. So again, in my opinion, from what I do not recommend converting a marine grease to a vault. But can we convert a vault to marine grease? I'm going to say in most cases yes, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I have customers that do it. I've done it, have good luck with it. They like to do it because it's easier for them to service, easier to find parts, and sometimes cheaper. But again, before you do any of that, ask yourself the reason why. It's not that one system is better than the other. I think both of these work just fine if properly maintained and properly installed. So you may not want to convert unless it is, a budget issue. But if you do it for budget reasons, make sure you do it correctly, because it may eat into your budget if you have catastrophic failure and you have to replace an axle. So now let's show you how you can convert your Dexter vault, UFP vault, whichever one you have, over to Bearing Buddy marine grease in most cases. So you're going to take your vault hub here. You've got it all washed up. You got your bearings clean. You're going to reuse all of this, but you're going to need to repack them. You can use your handy packer. You can pack it by hand. Make sure you use a good quality marine grease. I really like the Lucas. It has a high drop point, even if you're running a disc brake setup. So you're going to need a new seal, and you may need a wear sleeve. And here's what's important. Here's what I recommend. If you're going to convert the vault system to Bearing Buddy, go back with a vault seal. You're going to have to go back with a vault wear sleeve. If this will hold the vault lubrication in, it will for sure hold the marine grease, because the marine grease is thicker. So just go back with the vault correct seal for that. It will hold it just fine. So once you repack, you'll put your seal into vault spec. Many times it requires to have some form of sealant, whether that be Loctite or sealant. And if you need to replace the wear sleeve, make sure you do that, because you don't want it to leak. We do have a video on that. We'll leave a link in the description below. And you're going to reassemble. And once you reassemble, you're not going to use the vault cap any longer. You're going to discard that. And you're going to make sure that you don't use a grease zert in the end of the vault spindle. Just if for whatever reason one's been left in there, take it out. Make the hole being there is fine. It's not going to hurt a thing. So make sure you just have the open hole. Once you reassemble, tighten your nut down, put your nut retainer on. Then you're going to install the Bearing Buddy cap, and you're going to follow Bearing Buddy procedure as far as if it needs a sealant, how much grease to put in it, what to look for to get that properly filled up. Once you do that, I do recommend purchasing a bra if you didn't buy a kit that came with it, just to keep the crap out of this. And once you do that, you have a standard marine grease with a Bearing Buddy setup that you can keep pumped up per Bearing Buddy spec in order to keep positive pressure in there to keep it from leaking. So it is pretty easy to convert a vault system over to marine grease with a Bearing Buddy, but you cannot convert a standard grease to a vault. One thing I'll cover real quick is Easy Lube. People ask that all the time, can I put Bearing Buddy on my marine Easy Lube? Yes, you can. You just need to take the grease zert out, follow all the rest of your procedures. On that one, you can get a Bearing Buddy seal this is gonna be a little bit better than just your regular grease seal that goes in there. They'll have those on their website. If I can find a link, we'll try to leave a link to that. But they have a little bit better seal. Most of the time, if you just use a good double lip seal with a spring in it, it's not going to leak. I know some people recommend triple lip. A lot of the triple lips are for some of the older oil bath systems is not used anymore, that we're using 50 weight oil. But you can convert the Easy Lube over to Bearing Buddy as well, but not to vault. Just make sure you leave the grease zert out. So I hope that answers any question, clears any confusion. So Converting vault to bearing buddy, absolutely. Converting bearing buddy to vault, I don't recommend it. You may get away with it for a little while, but from what I've seen, they usually leak. So whichever way you decide to go, just make sure you do it right. Once you get everything repacked, make sure you tighten the dang lug nuts and go to the lake and have a good time. Catch some fish, catch some waves, whatever you're into, but enjoy your summer, and we will see you down the road.